If you would have met me 10 years ago, you would never imagine that I would be making my own butter. But here we are today, making our own butter. All you need is heavy whipping cream and whatever salt that you want to use. This all started whenever we got our own chickens and I started comparing store-bought eggs to our backyard chicken eggs, and then the rest is history. That led into sourdough starter, making sourdough bread, and what better to put on your sourdough bread than some homemade butter. So come on, I'll show you how. A big question is, how much are you going to get? So generally, if you put in 1 cup of your heavy cream, then you'll get about a half a cup of butter. So you can kind of figure out the math from there with, if you want a ton of butter or just a little bit of butter. So 1 cup of heavy cream, a half a cup of butter, give or take a little bit. Come on, take it easy here. Hey, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and do all the things so that I can keep this going. Thanks. All you do, I'm taking my cup of heavy cream, pouring it into the mixer. Once your heavy cream is poured into the bowl, you'll want your whisk attachment. So you'll put it down. You'll go ahead and put your guard on there. And I use a tea towel to wrap around. So once the butter starts to solidify, it starts to splash a little bit. And then we are just going to mix this, and I'm going to stop at each step to show you what it looks like on its journey from the heavy cream to the butter. So let's wrap our mixer with the towel, and I'm going to lock it, and we're going to turn. I have it all the way up on 6. It goes as high as 10. We're a few minutes in, and you can see that we have right now whipped cream. So we'll keep going, and it will go from this white color and it'll start to turn yellow. Now you can see that it's turning a little bit yellow, and it's even starting to drip. So the butter is separating itself away from the buttermilk. And I'm going to go ahead and give these sides a little bit of a scrape down before I keep mixing. Okay, and we'll be back. Now the butter is starting to separate more from the buttermilk. I'm going to keep going just a little bit. That didn't take long at all. So now that the butter's done, I'm going to, well, it's not completely done. We still got a few more steps, but now that it's separated, right? So I'm going to take the whisk off of there and scrape it into a bowl, because now we're going to have to wash the butter, okay? I've never heard of washing butter until I made butter, but you have to wash it. So I'm going to get all of this scraped off, and then I'm going to drain out, because there's still little pieces left inside the buttermilk. I'm going to drain that out, and then I'll meet up with you whenever it's time to wash the butter. So what I did was I scooped up all of my butter and I squeezed out, any last bit of that buttermilk, and it's nice and soft, and you have a nice butter ball. And so now we're going to wash it. And we'll wash it a few times because you want that water clear. You want this all cleaned up. You'll put your butter in some very, very cold water. You'll kind of rinse it around, squeeze it out. All right, I've changed the water. So you want to keep washing this and squeezing it and working it until that water runs clear, because what you're trying to do is get all of that buttermilk out of the butter. Now it's time to salt the butter. I'm using kosher salt. You could use whatever kind of salt that you like. I've heard of people using sea salt. So I'm going to add 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt, and then I'll taste it. I might add more, but that's what I'm going to start with. If you're a little bit nervous about adding salt, add a little bit less. You can always add more. You can't take it out. So let's add the salt. So here's my butter. I've smashed it down a little bit just to make it easier to add the salt. So let me get my measuring spoon in here. I'm going to sprinkle it on top, and then you'll just go ahead and knead it in here, kind of, I don't know, kind of like you would knead bread, but you want to get it all mixed in really good, because nobody wants to, you know, take that pat of butter and it's a mouthful of salt and they're like, oh, hey, thanks. I like a little butter with my salt. So I'm just going to keep mixing this around until I can feel that all of that salt is all mixed through. Now you've just made your own butter. Isn't that cool? So you can store it in the refrigerator in an airtight container, but in this case, I'm going to add this to a Butterbell. And if you don't know what that is, I'm going to make a separate video on putting the butter into the Butterbell, and then how to store that, and you can leave it right out on your counter. Check it out.